In today's show, we talk about the Blazers offseason, which is in a bit of a holding pattern. Plus, Deandre Ayton and the Bahmas are inching closer to an Olympic berth. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming out to you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, I guess we're going to talk about the Lakers a little bit. I promise some real relevance to Jeremy Grant, the Blazers, and kind of where the offseason stands at the moment. Then we'll talk about DA and the Bahamas. Deandre Ayton is in Spain and inching closer to a showdown Sunday in Valencia against host Spain with a chance to make the Olympics on the line. I have watched Deandre Ayton's games this week, and I'll tell you what he looks like in the second segment. Plus, we'll close the show talking Justin Minaya, the Blazers' two-way player, back again on another two-way deal, and the Blazers are running it back. We'll talk about where they stand and what's the deal in the third segment. Join me there. But first, let's talk about the Lakers, I guess. The way that the national media covers the 10th or 11th best team in the Western Conference can be a little bit exhausting. I understand the Lakers have the best player that I've ever seen, the best player of his generation. I'm not old enough to remember Michael with hair. LeBron's the best player I've ever watched play basketball. I'm very comfortable saying that. But he gets covered in a way that is a little bit much. And now his son's on the team, and this a little bit much. So I don't mean to inundate you with, here's what the Lakers are doing. But what the Lakers are doing is relevant to what the Blazers are doing. So let's start there. You're listening to Thursday, July 4th show, and on Wednesday morning, the Lakers and LeBron James agreed to a new contract where LeBron will get a 1+1 deal, which means he gets a max contract for this year and the ability to player option for the following season. He can opt out and re-sign another one. You know he's going to. It's what he does. He also got a no-trade clause. He's now one of two players in the league with a no-trade clause. The man has the power, and he's going to use it. Here's the thing, though. If the Lakers give LeBron the full max contract, they're capped at the second apron, which means they're done dealing, and that's where the Blazers come in. The Lakers have been reportedly interested in Jeremy Grant, first reported by Yahoo Sports last week and covered right here on this very podcast. And what I mentioned on that very podcast was that like a deal in basic construction is very, very easy to put together. Rui Hachimura and Gabe Vincent makes the money work with Jeremy Grant. It's very, very simple. But the Lakers, due to picks that they owe, a swap with New Orleans that they owe, as well as a top 4 protected pick to the Utah Jazz, part of the Russell Westbrook deal, they can only trade 2 future firsts because they have some encumbered first, and there's rules about trading picks in consecutive years. So they can only trade 2 future firsts. So all they've got to give in trades is those 2 picks. And some money to make it work. But if they're hard capped at the second apron, which means that they basically can't make trades. They cannot take back more money than they send out, and they cannot aggregate players. So what aggregating would mean in this case is that using the combined salaries of Rui Hachimura and Gabe Vincent together, aggregating those 2 salaries to equal Jeremy Grant's salary in order to make a legal trade. You just couldn't do that at the second apron. So while the deal is relatively simple on its face, it gets a little bit tricky if LeBron James has signed a contract. And it's been reported by multiple outlets that the Lakers are interested in Blazers forward Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant, of course, represented by Clutch Sports. Clutch Sports, of course, in charge of the Los Angeles Lakers. So it could get a little dicey for the Lakers, but it's not that easy. It's relatively simple for them to get around it. If LeBron James, and it's reported by Adrian Wojnarowski, who broke the news of the contract agreement first early this morning on the West Coast, if LeBron James were to take a slight salary cut, a slight reduction in salary, and we're talking very slight, about a little over $1 million on a $50 million deal. According to Keith Smith of SpotTrack.com, the Lakers with a full max for LeBron James would be $1.2 million over the second apron and thus hard capped at the second apron, basically unable to make any more moves for the remainder of the offseason. So the very simple move is either wait and you're hard capped, or LeBron takes a pay cut and then you make the deal and you're hard capped. Like they're going to get there eventually. The money is going to happen to them, hard capped at the second apron and unable to improve, which might mean that the Lakers are less inclined to make a deal. And I think this is where the Blazers come in. The Lakers have not gotten any better, right? They have not improved. They've made a draft pick. They've lost some players in free agency. Taurean Prince. They brought back their best player. Who thought LeBron was going anywhere? Come on. They made some draft picks. Dalton Connect and LeBron James Jr. They've retained their biggest star and signed him to a new deal, but they haven't improved. They're not a better basketball team. They're probably a little bit worse without Taurean Prince, although I don't know. He had some stretches where he wasn't great, but losing an NBA player is probably just overall on whole probably makes you a little bit worse or about the same, right? They're a team that is unimproved. So there is some urgency for them to make a deal, and hence they'll be interested in Jeremy Grant. According to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, the Lakers are not in the market for, quote, a dramatic deal for the Lakers to, quote, here's the quote, there's not a dramatic deal for the Lakers to do out in the marketplace. So they're not going to trade for a third star. Also, no, I won't swear because it's a family show, but how the heck with the stuff they have to trade are the Lakers going to trade for a star, quote unquote, capital S star player? They're not. So that part is just why this breathless coverage of the Lakers kind of exhausts you. They can't do that. Stop covering them like they can do that. They're an old, mediocre team with immense star power and a very popular jersey. Big global brand. But according to Woj, what's left is minimum contracts and moves on the edges. Does Jeremy Grant qualify as moves on the edges? I would say he's not a total move on the edge. He's certainly not a minimum contract. He's making $30 million a year. So either the way to read Woj's reporting is that the Jeremy Grant deal is still in the cards because that's the type of move they're only able to make, or the Jeremy Grant deal's dead because they're just looking at a different caliber of player and more minor moves, and they're not going to make trades because they don't want to put the only picks that they have to trade, and basically that is the value that they're trading. To the right team, D'Angelo Russell, Lakers point guard, has some value, but he does not have any value in Portland. It's a Tyler Hero redux where it's yes, that's a pretty good player, but this particular franchise has no use for that particular player. I think D'Angelo Russell actually ended up being, after the trade deadline, ended up being a pretty good NBA player for the final 25 games of the season. And I'm not really a Rui Hachimura believer, but I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's that good. So the Lakers just don't have a package to get players. They have a package to get Jeremy Grant, but as sort of, and I don't think you need. This is a big thing that I say on the show all the time. Let me reiterate it here. I don't think you need if you are heavily sourced, you can kind of find these things out from people in the know. But I think for something like this. This was just the logic I teased out immediately when it was reported by Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports 10 days ago that the Lakers were a week ago, I guess, just before the draft, 8 days ago, when it was reported that the Lakers, one of their interested targets was Jeremy Grant heading into draft night. The Lakers only have 2 picks to trade, and 1 pick is probably not enough for the Blazers to say yes, and 2 picks is probably too much for the Lakers to say yes because that's all they have to trade, and that's going to be the thing that ends up making the deal really hard needle to thread. And here we are, the Lakers are kind of maybe haggling to keep the possibilities for deals, either that deal or a deal like that, alive, but you can just see why there would be a holdup. Straight up, if I'm the Lakers, I'm not trading two first-round picks for Jeremy Grant, and if I'm the Blazers, one pick from, that 2029 Lakers pick, that is juicy. I will bet on the Lakers being bad in a few years. I think they don't have a lot of their own draft picks, and they're old. And they might swing for it in the next couple of years. Just continue to try to finish 8th and not 10th with LeBron James. Give me that 2029 pick. Maybe that alone, fully unprotected 2029. It's okay, that's intriguing. But one pick, a pick in the more recent future than that. Like is that super appealing? I think it's 28 or the 28 pick and then 30. It's like, I don't know, a single one of those picks. It's like, is that what you want? Like, is that what you want from them? I think you would want more. You'd ask for more, and they don't have a really way to give you much more. They don't have young, intriguing players. Like they don't, it seems like it's going to be hard for it to go down, and I can see why the Lakers would say no to 2 picks because that's the ammunition they have to improve at any point. Jeremy Grant would obviously help them. How much, I think, is in the eyes of the beholder, but he'd obviously help them. I think he'd be pretty useful for what they're after. Okay, that's enough Lakers talk. That kind of explains why the Blazers are where they are, though. Portland's roster is full. They signed Justin Minaya to a 2-way contract, but even before that, by guaranteeing Delano Banton, they're at 15. They're not going to make moves in free agency, and they never were. Like, that was the move, and his guaranteed date came, and they picked it up, exercised the team option. But like, they never were going to be players in free agency. Their movement is going to come on the trade market. So the trade market is at a little bit of a stall across the league. I think, at least reading my man Keith Smith of Spot Track, his guess is that the trades will heat up once teams kind of figure out, once the moratorium ends on July 6th, kind of who stands where and how to expand other trades and make sure that they can, teams, particularly expensive teams, figuring out how to maneuver and finagle and do all of those things, because that might be the free agent market may have mostly dried up, and now we're into the trading portion of the offseason. So I think the Blazers are just part of that holding pattern. Might be next week before things heat up again, and the Blazers will likely continue to explore deals for some of their veterans. We'll see. We haven't heard even word one on Anthony Simons, and we may never hear it. They might be just running this dang thing back. Okay. But the Blazers aren't really doing anything. But you know who's doing stuff? Deandre Ayton. He's hooping for the Bahmas as they inch closer to a potential Olympic berth. They're headed for the semifinals of their qualifying tournament for the Olympics. And I watched DA's first 2 games in this Olympic qualifying tournament. I want to tell you what I saw from DA. That's what we'll do in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Gametime. It's the place for last-minute tickets. If you're looking to do something this weekend, it's going to be hot. It's very hot in Portland, but you can maybe get a whole bunch of water and get some seats in the shade. In fact, you can sit upstairs at Providence Park for $32 if you go to the Gametime app right now and go see the Portland Thorns take on the San Diego Wave. $32 to get in the building. Give yourself a little something fun to do. Make sure you hydrate, take care of yourself, and be safe, and watch a little footy while you do it. The last time it was triple digits in Portland, I went to that very stadium and watched a Timbers match. It was hot, but I still had a whole bunch of fun. I didn't use Gametime because I didn't know about it back then, but if I did, I certainly would have, because it's a spot for last-minute tickets, up to 60% off when you're buying last-minute tickets on every sporting event you're looking for. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Go to Gametime, go to gametime.co or download the Gametime app and then enter that promo code LOCKEDONNBA. You got $20 off your first purchase. That's super simple, and let me get it for you right this time. Here's what you do. You download the Gametime app. You use the redemption code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Gametime, last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right. I watched Deandre Ayton play 2 basketball games this week. First against Finland, then against Poland and his team, the Bahmas, 2-0 and headed to the semifinals of their Olympic qualifying tournament group. They will play the winner of Angola and Lebanon on Friday, and if they win that one, which they will be favored to win that one, if they win, they will move to a Sunday game, likely against host Spain, for a winner-take-all spot in the Olympics. DA's hooping. I'm excited to watch basketball games. You longtime listeners will know my favorite part about basketball is basketball. I do enjoy the offseason. I find it fascinating. It's an interesting time, but I like the squeaky sneakers. I like the ball bouncing. I like the tactics and the X's and O's, and I like I like to see the ball go in, and DA was making the ball go in. He's played 2 games. He had 19 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, and a steal against Finland in their opening game. This one was pretty funny. Literally the first touch of the game, Deandre Ayton gets the ball at the top of the key and turns it over in a dribble handoff, and I was like, oh no. I watched it on record. I'm watching these games on Courtside 1891.basketball. It's a website that run by FIFA, run by FIBA. Not FIFA, another major, maybe problematic global entity, FIBA. That's Courtside 1891.basketball. You pay $30 for an annual subscription. I know that's like everything costs money. The whole world is a subscription now. But if you really want to watch it, and you can, and you still have 2 more games, you pay about $15 a piece. You could pay cheaper and just pay $17.99 and watch just for this tournament if you're into it. So that might be the move. I opted in for the whole thing, baby. You can also sign up for a free. I'm saying this now because I mentioned I would tell you how to watch these games on a past episode. DAZN, that's DAZN, which is pronounced DAZN, amazingly. I love American branding. It's very stupid. But DAZN also has them, and you can sign up for a free 1-month trial of DAZN and watch the games, but they're not live. You watch them as they're shown on DAZN. So you don't. I found that Courtside 1891 is a little better for my personal schedule. I'm able to watch them live, and then they're immediately capsuled so you can watch them on demand. And they also have, if you just sign up for free on Courtside 1891.basketball, you can sign up for a free account and you can watch a 10-minute capsule of the game. So they have just a little quick 10-minute version of the game if you're not going to sit down and rewatch all of Finland versus the Bahmas. I totally understand. That's how you watch it. I was able to watch these games. I'm lucky enough to have some banked time to spend my evenings obsessing about basketball. It's a good thing about committing to this podcast is that my family understands the obsession. Against Finland, he did turn the ball over in his first touch, and I was like, oh no, but he dominated that game. They had no one who could match with his physicality. He only took 3 shots outside the paint. He just dominated in the paint, 8 of 12 inside on all makes inside the paint. Hit 3 of his 4 free throws. Dunked the ball in transition, caught it down low and dunked on a little when he was hanging out in the dunker spot, semi-transition, a couple catches. Finland just didn't have anyone for him. Lauri Markkanen not playing for the Finnish national team. DA got what he wanted. What I like about watching guys play for international basketball clubs is that they kind of often get to do more than their natural role in the NBA. Like some guys like Patty Mills puts on the Aussie jersey and just is like MJ. He's like, well, I'm one of the 15 best players in the world. Let's go. I think in some ways, Rudy Fernandez was like this when he played in Spain. He was better in Spain. I think Billy Hernan Gomez has been better when he plays in the Spanish for the Spanish team than when he plays in the NBA. It's just some dude Davis Bertans. He's the go-to guy for Latvia, and he's just playing a totally different role. He's like, Davis, we need you to put the ball on the deck and score. And DA gets a little bit of that. They're running a lot of to get a little bit nerdy, delay action, which is the best way to explain it is two guys in the corners, 2 guys in the wings, and the center is at the top of the key. And there's a couple reads you can make at the top of the key. But so DA gets the ball, catches it outside the 3-point line at the top of the key, and has some sort of dribble handoff decision-making responsibilities. And he kind of triggers the action. There's a bunch of different stuff. And the Bahamas runs that a lot, and with DA getting to dribble. And I like that he's doing that more. The Blazers run that a little, but he doesn't, not to the extent that he's getting that ask with the Bahamas. He looked like, in game 1 against Finland, DA looked like DA for the Blazers. And also the Bahamas kind of sleepwalked through the second quarter of this game and found they were down double digits to a team without NBA players. And then they just kind of out-talented them in the third quarter. I think Buddy Hield hit 6 threes. His 6 threes in the game, but 4 of them in the third quarter. And they just went nuts, and they started their defense. They kind of turned up their defense, and really it was over. The other big thing about watching the Bahamas is that VJ Edgecombe, who's a 5-star recruit, he's a 5-star athletic 2-guard headed to Baylor. That dude's an NBA player. He's going to be a lottery pick next year. He's really good. I've been joking watching these games, texting a few friends. I'm watching current Blazer Deandre Ayton and future Blazer VJ Edgecombe. He's been fun. He's been the most fun part about watching these games. The Bahamas doesn't have a point guard. They play with Eric Gordon and Buddy Hield on the court, and Buddy Hield just kind of hijacks possessions. He shoots a lot and is not a natural playmaker, but he's a bucket. He's absolutely a bucket. So they kind of need DA to get into the playmaking stuff. But against Finland, he just had such a physical advantage. There was no hope. Poland was a little bigger. They had Jeremy Sohan, an NBA player, and they had a big guy, number 11 in the middle. I'm not gonna venture out to say his name because I don't want to screw it up. But they just had they had more size. They had a true 7-footer to sort of Ayton to play against. Ayton was way more skilled than him and was fine. So 19-9, 3 assists in game 1 against Poland in game 2. Deandre had 18 points, 9 boards, an assist, a steal, and 2 blocks. He was finished 7 for 12 from the floor. He took 4 3-pointers, and on his first touch against Poland, he hit a 3. They ran that same kind of delay stuff, went into a dribble handoff. He sets a screen and then kind of like pops out, and this is kind of a broken action, but he ends up easy catch and shoot shots. He's a little line drivey from 3. It's clearly not a comfortable shot for him yet, but you're talking to me. I love watching DA pop 4 threes in 30 minutes. If he's going to live off a steady diet of 22-footers, he can live off a steady diet of 23-footers. Like, he takes so many 19-footers. Like, let's back up a little bit. It's not like I'm begging a dude who lives in the paint to take threes. I'm begging a dude who lives far away from the rim to back out a little bit further and make the shots worth 50% more. He took 4 threes. He made his first, missed his last 3. I think in the game against Finland, I think they slept walk a little bit. Poland, they didn't. The Bahmas basically had a double-digit lead for the majority of the game. A couple times it got close. I think they cut it to single digits in the third quarter and cut it to like 6 or with 3 minutes left, just under 3 minutes. Poland did, but it wasn't really ever in doubt. It wasn't in jeopardy. And VJ Edgecombe hit a big jumper to kind of ice the say no, hit a pull up to ice the game, and then a 3-pointer for the final margin. DA was good in this game. I thought he was good. Again, more of that dribble handoff action, that delay stuff. It leads him to the top of the key. Leads him to maybe taking some 3-pointers he wouldn't and otherwise in sort of the way he's utilized in the NBA, but he does most of his damage in the paint still. Like, he's taking those like 15, 16-foot jumpers. He's, scrounging for loose balls and taking jump hooks. He's using his athleticism to just be faster, stronger than other dudes his size. He was good on offense. I will say I get a little frustrated sometimes because I feel like there are moments on defense specifically where Ayton is just a passenger. It's just like he's watching, and it's like, I just wish he revved a little bit hotter and would jump up in the mix and not be a spectator. That's nitpicking a little bit because I thought he played well against Poland, but I'd be lying if I didn't watch that fourth quarter and be like, DA, come on, dog. Come on. Like, there's a couple times just straight up watching guys. There was an offensive rebound. It's like he's kind of looking around. Another play where he's like hands down in the paint as someone drives. It's like, just be a little more active. But like he's been good. He's been good, and he's doing a little bit more, and that's all. Like, he's been really good on offense, and he's been doing a little bit more on offense, which is like really what you want to see when guys play in the international games, and they're kind of he's their star, right? He's their guy who has to be productive. Side note, Jeremy Sohan, incredible turnovers in this game. If you do end up, they're not going to show it to you on the highlights, but if you watch the whole game, he is wicked loose with the ball. Really special. Okay, so the Bahamas, they play Friday afternoon Portland time, and then if they win, and they'll be heavily favored against Lebanon or Angola, whoever wins that game. That's on Thursday, and then they will. If the Bahamas win, they'll play Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Portland time, very likely against Spain. Spain will play the winner of Finland and Poland in their semifinal. They're both Spain and the Bahamas are 2-0. This was the expected matchup, the two best teams in this qualifying tournament coming in, especially without Lauri Markkanen involved. Sunday, 11:30 a.m. in Valencia, 11:30 a.m. our time, but in Valencia against host Spain for a shot at the Olympics on the line. That's gonna be fun. I will. I'm gonna watch that game. I probably live, pretty close to live. It's actually a relatively good time for the way I do things. But Sunday show if DA is in, or Monday show if DA is in the Olympics, you'll hear about it. If he's not, you will also hear about it. But I will cover those two games, tell you what I've seen. Let's close the show talking a little bit Justin Minaya. He is back on a 2-way contract. The Blazers are running it back, and it is admittedly a little bit weird. Join me in that third segment. Let's talk about it. Still a pass versus point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. The news this week, the Blazers, not making moves, but the move they did make and announced, the team made it official earlier this week that Justin Minaya is back on a 2-way contract. 25-year-old, 6'5", 2-guard, wing, 6'5" wing, spent last season on a 2-way contract, appeared in 34 games for the Blazers. He also played in 4 games at the end of 22-23 when they were just super duper tanking, and he was on the team, and then he came into camp and he got a 2-way contract and spent some time with the G League, played in 20 games with the Rip City Remix where he averaged 13.7 points, 6.5 boards, 4 assists, 1.5 steals, and a block. Shot 43 in the G League, shot 44% from the floor and 34% from the 3-point line. I don't think 2-way contracts are the things to get bent out of shape about. I don't. I don't get this one, but I don't think it's like they're just so fickle and they're so temporary and they're largely. They're just impermanent, right? Like you can get waived off a 2-way contract at any time. The 2-way contracts don't count against a team's cap space. You just give a dude a 2-way deal, and you come into camp, and if someone beats him out for one of those spots in camp, or you see someone on the remix who you like better, you can just waive Justin Minaya at literally any point and add someone else to the 2-way deal. Like it is not, there is just no reason to freak out about it. That said, Justin Minaya is not an NBA player. We've seen enough of him. I thought I wasn't like super high on it last year either. I wasn't like, nice, Justin Minaya. Like I didn't get it last year either. And then he plays, he ended up playing almost half the games for the Blazers, appearing in half the games for the Blazers, playing about 11 minutes a night as spot minutes, playing like the backup wing minutes. And he plays because he's a good defender, right? He's a good dogged defender. But he's not this high-level NBA defender. He's not locking people up. He's just like good, competitive, good individual defender, good team defender, knows where to be, doesn't make the mistakes on that end, plays incredibly hard. You can count on him. Billups was playing him, particularly over Ryan Rupert at some point in the season, because Rupert was going to make a bunch of mistakes on offense and defense, and Justin Minaya wasn't, and coaches love guys who don't make mistakes. That's who plays. Like even in developmental teams, like it just, coaches are just, they're creatures of habit, and also like their mental health needs to not see someone like tell him what to do, go in the game, and immediately screw it up, right? And it took a while for Rupert to kind of earn that, like, you can go screw it up type of minutes, because Minaya just played over him because he wasn't going to make mistakes. But he's not an NBA player. He's not. I feel very comfortable after watching him say that. I think he might be like a long-term pro, right? Like he's effective in the G League, but in his G League stats, like across the G League has a split season. They have like a showcase, then you play in the showcase in Vegas, and then or it was somewhere else this year. It was like I forget, like Montgomery, Alabama, I think, off the top of my head. It was somewhere not Vegas this year. And then they come back, and the regular season is after that. And Minaya played in 20 games in the showcase in the regular season in the G League, like 20 total games across the full season for the G League. He turned the ball over 48 times. It's like, it's not like he's doing, and he's shooting 34% from 3 in the G League and like under 50% from the field. It's not like he's crushing efficiency in the G League and like looking really good on offense. And if he just turns it around, like he's a dude who puts up good defensive numbers in the G League. I like totally get why he's an NBA athlete. He's like the NBA size and physicality. He's just not a pro. He's not good enough on offense to be a pro. He shot, in his two NBA seasons, he shot under 25% from 3 combined. Like, he hasn't shot well in the G. Like, he just, I don't think it's a time to get bent out of shape, but I don't get it. I don't get why he's like the sort of two-way contract should either be like depth at a position of need, right? You just like bring in a point guard, you bring in like an Ashton Higgins type. It's like, listen, this team just doesn't have point guards. Higgins is not an NBA player, but he's like competent enough to like bring the ball across the floor and pass, and play some competitive defense. And like, even though he'll probably be an overall negative, like he kind of fills a specific need. The Blazers don't need like a pretty good defensive wing. They've got too many of those as is, right? Like, Sean Highkin of Rose Garden Report has reported several times, and I should say reiterated several times. He probably reported it once and reiterated it several times that he believes that Ibu Badji will be back in a 2-way deal. Badji, like, I'm not a Badji believer either. Like, I don't really see it with him. I know some people really see it with him, and I'm gonna let you see what you see. I see what I see. But like, at least it's easy to like talk yourself into Baji. It's like he's really new to the game. He's really raw. He does one thing really well, which is block shots. If he can do some other stuff, like there's just not that many dudes with his athleticism and his size and his motor that, like it's easy to talk yourself into it. I don't get it with Minaya. That said, who cares? It's so temporary. Like it's just not a thing to get bent out of shape. I think it's weird. It's strange. And it follows this trend right now. Like I think the Blazers are going to make trades. So I don't think this is like a thing that's going to stick, but it's a thing that I'm putting a little star next to here on July 4th. It's like this team is looking very similar. Basically adding 2 new players, Malcolm Brogdon for Denny Avdia, bringing Avdia, and Moses Brown out and Donovan Clingan in. You're adding 2 new players to the mix, bringing 13 players back from last year's roster and 2 of the same two-way guys. What? What is I just don't get that. I just don't get it. I think it's going to change. I think they're going to make trades. I think the roster is going to look different. I think two-way contracts are so impermanent and so temporary that it's just like I'll wait until freaking November and they might have a new guy in a 2-way deal and it's like great, fine. But I can't help but notice how similar the roster looks to last season, and I can't help but be a little bit frustrated by that. The part of me that just desires change for the sake of change, and because the team wasn't very good last year, and then it's like I know that they could be better just with better health, but to just bump up against the same ceiling again because you feel like you weren't healthy enough to get enough data seems silly to me. You only have so many chances to improve the team and change the way things look. If they were to run it back with this similar of a roster, I think it would be a mistake and probably just malpractice. That might be too harsh of a word, but I will say bordering on malpractice to run back a nearly identical roster plus Denny Avdia. Avdia's a nice find. I think it's like that's a nice pickup, but like, come on. Come on. So hopefully they do something and we can talk about it here. I will have a show for you Friday. I am going to record sometime in the evening of July 4th or perhaps very early morning on July 5th. But look for it in your feeds. I'm planning on recording sometime on the 4th. So you'll have 5 this week. That's what we do. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Come back for tomorrow's show. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.